Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Sunday night broadcast. Just before we get going, I thought it might be just interesting to mention that this, I think, is our 11th or 12th episode, and over these 12 episodes, we've had more than 14,200 viewings of the material, both either live or on the recorded material afterwards that happens. So that's pretty good going, I think. And I've just realised that we've actually started 4 seconds too early. So here we go. It's now 7 o'clock. So it's at 7 o'clock. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Maybe perhaps for the second time. But hello, and this is going to be a fun night. I was just saying, if you've just joined us on air, that our episodes, our broadcasts, since we started this, which is about 12 episodes ago now, I think, we've had more than 14,000 people watch the material. So for our special guest tonight, no pressure, only 14,000 people, don't worry. And we have some great people tonight, some not only the great distributors and fantastic leaders, senior group leaders, but they're really, really good friends. And a little bit about them first of all. We've got Mark and Angela de Souza online. Mark and Angela have been in business. I won't tell their story, they can tell it, but sufficient to say is they've shot past the 10,000 group customer level, which is pretty good. I'm sure everybody would agree with that. And then we have Kevin Hunt. Kevin Hunt is an interesting man. He's a musician. Well, actually, he's a drummer. So he'll tell you his story. But as a drummer, a sort of musician, his group has generated more than 33,000 customers. So even drummers can do this business. So tonight we're going to start off, and I think we're going to start off with Mark and Angela. So Mark and Angela, over to you.
Good evening, Clive. Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
A little bit of our story, Clive. We came into this business in April 2004 when I responded to a flyer that came through the letterbox about discounting our utility bills. And it had a free phone number, and when I rang it, I actually found that it was one of our literally neighbours down the road who was the distributor. So he came to visit me, presented the services to us, and we signed up as a customer. And then a few days later, when everything, the paperwork had gone through, we used to get a letter from the company that used to tell you how much you were going to save on your energy, etc. I rang him back and I gave him the names of my mum, brother, sister, Angela's mum and her 2 brothers, and basically gave him 6 referrals there and then.
He must have absolutely fell off the phone.
Yeah,
he did. And what he did do, Clive, he came round and had a chat with us and he thanked me for the referrals, but as he was leaving, he actually did say there was a business opportunity that we could participate in. And I suppose being quite naive and not wanting to get involved in the bureaucracy of submitting business interest application forms, I dismissed it. And I said Angela was a school teacher and there was the bureaucracy of going through that application system, until he said, as he was leaving, well, just to let you know, the Police Federation, Grace Manchester Police Federation, were distributors. And when he said that, I was really, really happy with the services and happy recommending the services, but that just sowed the seed of that it allowed me to think everything had been vetted about the company. And I just said to him, well, let me go and do my due diligence and I'll get back to you. Anyway, I did my due diligence, and then within about 48 hours, I rang him back. He took me to a pre-opportunity presentation where the first person I met there was Darren Turner, who introduced Darren because he was a serving police officer, still is, and I'm a detective sergeant in Greater Manchester Police. So there was that synergy in the room, and I remember Darren saying, this is a 3 to 5 year plan, and it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, but if you work at it consistently, it'll reap its rewards. And I always remember that first conversation I had with Darren Turner. And, you know, all we've done since then is the 4 fundamentals, really. I started consistently gathering customers. I wouldn't have been able to, or myself and Angela wouldn't have been able to answer half the questions on meeting 1, because we didn't really know what was achievable, because we totally didn't understand network marketing. And it was a case of gathering customers consistently, speaking to people, and then I suppose it wasn't until we sort of hit the 50+ club that you know, we got a phone call from Stefan Longworth.
Yeah, and that was a real turning point for us in the business, Clive, because up until that point we were happily gathering customers. I'd get appointments, you'd go and sign them up, and we were kind of doing that for fun. We had no idea how to build a team whatsoever. So when we got this phone call from Steph, we felt really honoured. It was great. So that's a top tip for anybody out there. Those calls to congratulate team members are really, really important. And he said to us, you know, I can see on the Genie you're great customer gatherers. He said, but have you thought about building a team? And we kind of had thought about it, but we didn't know what to do. So he met us and gave us some great advice, and from that day forward has worked with us, like yourself and Di, and mentored us and coached us. So I would say to another top tip for anybody out there, you know, if you see somebody on your Genie that's gathering customers, and they you know, don't just put them down in that box as a customer gatherer. Pick up the phone to them, no matter how many levels deep they are, and you know, arrange to meet up with them, because you know, they could be, you know, a little superstar in the making. So so I think it came at a really good point in our lives, because at that time, like Mark said, I'm a teacher, primary teacher, and I was really, really stressed out in my job. I was working all the hours. I was trying to juggle the children along with the pressures of my career, and I was really unhappy, if I'm honest. And I kind of thought, if this is my lot forever, then oh my word, you know. But literally from that day forward, we started to set some goals, and we turned things around, because I was literally spending more time with the children in my class than my own boys. But since then, through working the business consistently over a period of time, and I would say we have worked it consistently, that is, you know, that is key. I have been able to spend time with the boys in their formative years, if you like. I haven't missed any school events, been able to take them to school, pick them up, and as a mother, that meant the world to me. So, and I think really today it hit home, because we took our eldest son Joseph to university in Sheffield for the first time, and you know, he kept saying to me, "Don't cry, Mum, don't cry." And actually gave him a hug, and I just felt like I had no regrets, because I'd literally spent the time with him whilst he's been growing up, and I just felt really comfortable with it. I didn't regret anything, and if we hadn't had this business, it would have been quite a different story today. I think I would have been quite sad. So
let me just say this to you about your son, okay? He will be back with dirty washing.
I know. Oh yes, I'll welcome him.
Clive, I don't know if you can see that, Clive, but that was the first book I started in 2004, and the first thing I was asked to do was to make a list. And from that list of 180 people, you can see the highlighted bits, and the highlighted ones are 80 customers that came from that list, from our warm list, and out of those 80 customers then came our first 12 IDs from that. So, you know, from a point of view of learning, that was absolutely invaluable.
That's fantastic. Kevin, let's hear from you, if you wouldn't mind, please. How did you get involved, and what's your story?
Good evening, Clive. Good evening, everybody. As you so eloquently said, my background is music. I'm a drummer, so that does actually class as a musician, and it's probably my greatest passion to this day. How I got involved, I was approached back in March 2000, but I'd actually had a little bit of networking experience with a company called Amway in the past. Never made a penny at it, actually spent more than I actually earned. Recruited one person and actually became very, very uncomfortable with the whole process. So when I was approached about this, I was a little bit anti-network marketing. And funnily enough, I was approached by two people at the same time. One was from a chap in Hull, who I can't even remember his name of because I never heard from him again. And the other was a gentleman called Stephen Longworth, who, as you can imagine, was slightly more persistent with the follow-up process.
Yeah.
So after a series of phone calls, I said, look, Steph, I'll become a customer. I really want to save lots of money on my phone bills. I'm not sure about this networking side. So he said, okay, you can make an intelligent decision on that. I then received another follow-up phone call from yourself a few days later, and by which time I'd already decided to give it a go, and I'd informed you that I'd actually sent the forms back. So I was in. Now, what you have to understand here is that I was actually initially approached from an old mail shot system. I received this mail shot that said, miss this, regret it forever. Yeah. So I thought, well, hang on a minute. I'm probably going to have to send out lots of these mailings to actually build this business. Obviously, something that wouldn't work today anyway. But I thought, hang on, I'm not going to hang around waiting to see how that works. I'm going to draw on my past experience. So lo and behold, I'll build a list. So I started to write a list of names, and it wasn't a particularly big list, but probably within the 2 days of my starter pack arriving, I'd signed up 3 or 4 customers, probably my mum, my brother, my friends, etc. And then within a month, I also had 2 distributors on board. And I then got this phone call from Steph, and he said, you need to come to this event. And I said, Steph, look, I've told you, I don't do these rah-rah events anymore. I'm just not interested. And I'm not going to drive miles to somewhere like London. And he said, well, actually, it's in Manchester, which is probably another 130 miles. But he said, you don't quite understand. He said, you need to be at this event. And I can just hear it now. And he said, at this event, you will receive some advanced information, which will put you back 8 to 10 months ahead of the chase and pack. And he said, you need to have your team members with you there as well. All 2 of them. So anyway, one of them lived in Manchester, so that wasn't too difficult. And the other was a good friend of mine, a chap called Neil Blythe, and he lived locally. And I said to Neil, look, we've got to go to this event up in Manchester. And after a certain sort of somewhat amount of persuasion, we decided to go to this event. And we travelled up there in this rusty Vauxhall Astra with 2 lurcher dogs in the back, so you can just imagine what we looked like.
This is Neil's car, isn't it?
I had one the same. 2 Astras. And I remember this event so well. It was at a salubrious location called the Cresta Court Hotel in Altrincham.
Oh my God! Yeah.
So, and we walked into this event and we sat at the back. But you know when you talk about these light bulb moments of attending events, and there was this lunatic running around on stage and he said, do you want none, do you want some, or do you want lots? And at this point that really struck a chord with me, and I thought, I quite like the idea of lots. And this really sat in my brain, and when we drove away, we got home, we had a little meeting and a chat, and I said, that Clive Leach chap, he's one of these marketing directors, as it was then, which is now obviously called senior group leader. And I said, he's on loads of money. This is what we need to do. So from that day on, I set a plan to get to marketing director or to senior group leader. Now at this point, my list was starting to run just a little bit short. So I suppose I became what could be termed as a foot soldier. And I used to spend every spare minute that I had walking around the towns and villages of Norfolk and Suffolk with a little plastic pig in my hand, which was then our flagship product, which was the smart box, which routed the calls. And I used to call on all the small shops and businesses and show them this product. And of course, a lot of them would sign up for this, and then they would also take it at home. And of course, some of them did become distributors. So at this point, also another significant thing happened. I got together with my beautiful, gorgeous partner, Nikki. We'd known each other 5 years, so we thought it was time that we actually did something about it, and we got together. And at this point, we did have a really big why, because those that actually know my story know that I did have quite a massive debt at this time. So for the next 4 years, we worked this thing really, really hard. We truly did pay the price. We were probably out every single night of the week, most weekends. We were on the phone. We were constantly speaking to people. And then after a 4-year period, I hit that SGL or MD position as it is now. And after around about a 5-year period, we became debt-free. And I'm gone down on record as saying we will always have one debt, and that's a sincere debt of honour and a massive debt of gratitude to Steph for showing us this business, because God forbid, where would we be without it now? And of course, the lifestyle we have today is totally different. You were commenting on my colour earlier. We just spent 2 different holidays in the last month. One was the company holiday in France, which was a replacement for the cruise because we couldn't go on, and then we went to Cornwall. And next year we're going back to Disney in Orlando for the 3rd time, an area you know well, I know, Clive. Now, just to put in perspective what that can do for you, it's not always about the money, but it's more what the money can actually do for you. Because the first time we went there a couple of years ago, it was for my daughter's 7th birthday, and we actually surprised her. We didn't tell her until the night before we got on the plane that she was going to Disney for her birthday. So if you can imagine, the look on her face was absolutely priceless. So at that point, was it worth paying the price? Was it worth all the no's? Was it worth all the rejection? Was it worth all the backstabbing? Absolutely, of course it was. And, you know, we're just so grateful that we're involved today.
Kevin, thank you very much indeed for that. That's absolutely splendid. I know you guys, all of you, Kevin, Martin, Angela, I know you're very keen in driving your groups with culture and stuff like that. So if we could just sort of discuss that, and perhaps we could start off with Mark and Angela first. Could you make some reference to that for me, please?
Yeah, I would say that myself and Mark, I think we've got a really strong culture of self-development running through the team. It's really, really important, because from my own experience, when Stefan first introduced us to personal development, Mark would read everything, listen to all the CDs, and, you know, I'm ashamed to say really that I didn't. That was a serious error of judgment on my behalf. However, when I did start to immerse myself in self-development, my life changed just on so many levels, and not just in terms of the business, but personally as well. So it is so important. So as soon as we get a new team member in the team, it's important for us to plug them into that system, reading the books, listening to the CDs, because that's going to insulate them from the dream stealers, isn't it? There's all that negativity out there, and we want to protect them from that. So it's very important. Again, we'll, you know, get them to, well, recommend that they subscribe to Knowledge is King Book of the Month, because, you know, all the successful distributors in the network are doing that, and I think success leaves clues. So that's something that we'll recommend. Also, we'll sort of recommend that they invest in Stefan's book, The Impact System. Fantastic book. It's a real how-to on how to do this business. And also Eric Worre's Go Pro. Those 2 books we really recommend, and because we place such an importance on it, we'll actually make self-development materials available at home meetings, at our monthly team meetings, so that in that way we can ensure that team members are being introduced to the stuff that we think is really going to help them drive their businesses.
Angela, can I just interrupt you and ask you a question there, if I may? You just said you make this material available at home meetings. Do you mean you have it there for sale?
Yes, we'll tend to buy, you know, a bulk load of Stefan's books, and we've just ordered quite a few of the Eric Worre Go Pro, and we'll have them there. So when we're having our home meetings, I'll actually say to people, right, have you got these 2 books? You need these 2 books, yeah. So and quite often people say, right, straight away they'll get them, because, you know, they want to, they're there, they want to progress, and it's really important. So definitely.
Mark, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, Clive, a lot of the stuff we've done as well, when we first started off in the business, Paul Greenoff used to have a monthly team meeting, and then we've sort of followed in those sort of footsteps and generated those home meetings that are like a sub meeting, monthly meeting, throughout the team, and getting the leaders to take responsibility of running those home meetings, as well as still having a monthly team meeting. And that gives us an opportunity to really sort of share the experiences of what's working well, maybe what people have tried and maybe not working, reviewing activity, and then it's really great for sort of implementing those skills. So say, for example, when we're talking about meeting one and developing and identifying why somebody might be interested in the opportunity for prospecting, it's understanding Alan Pease's questions are the answers. And if they understand that particular skill, it makes it so much easier, the recruitment process and bringing team members on board. And again, with the Eric Worre material, you're looking at a great book there which will help you. And the biggest thing I've taken from Worre that I've used without really understanding is that phrase, educate and understand. Yeah. Because that's what we're doing. We're really sharing with the team, and they're sharing with their prospects what we've actually got in the palm of our hands. And it's that education process and farming process rather than the hunting mentality that really is developing and gives you that UW family feel to it.
I get that. I get that. So, and you guys are off to Vegas soon, anyway, aren't you? To the breakthrough event. So that's going to be really cool, isn't it?
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that in a week's time.
I need to ask you a question, because you're in a different scenario. You know, here you are. You live in Norfolk, which is not heavily populated. Yet you've got it's generated more than 35,000 customers. Here. Kevin,
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Oh, I can now. I can hear you again. You were cutting in and out.
What I was saying, Kevin, is that you know, where you live in Norfolk, it's not exactly terribly heavily populated, okay? But you've built this enormous group, 35,000. It's generated more than 35,000 group customers. How have you generated a culture that's made that happen?
Well, as you say, we live in Norfolk. We have more sheep than people. We don't have much gas. We don't have a lot of LLU. The mobile signal isn't particularly good, but we haven't done too bad. Yeah, how do we implement it? I think Mark and Angela will agree that, you know, we come from a line of sponsorship where the self-development is instilled within the culture of the business. And they talked about, obviously, the books and the tapes, or showing me age now, and the CDs and things. I think one book that I would add to what they talked about was, if you were talking to a business person, would be the Robert Kiyosaki Business of the 21st Century, both the book and the CD. But also, I think the association is really, really key. It can be a lonely business, especially in a place like this. So it was really, really key for me in the early days to get taken to those events. Even I had to drive miles and miles to do it. I mean, you might remember that in those days there was no training. The nearest COP to me was Manchester. And you might recall one cold, snowy December evening where I drove to Manchester to see you, Clive, presenting the COP, so that I could video it to see how it was done and pass it on to other team members. So events totally key. Did I hear somewhere, or I read somewhere not so long back, that the size of your team is not the actual people on your genealogy, but it's the amount of people that attend the major events. And if you look down the activity after attending those events, you can see that there's never been a truer statement.
That's true. I mean, just actually neatly brings it to the next point I wanted to discuss. You know, we've just had, last weekend, we've had a major event. And at that event, there was a critical announcement made, which I'm sure everybody who's watching this broadcast will be familiar with that announcement. What I'd like to know is how you guys are going about implementing that. And just to bring the change a bit, Kevin, if you could sort of mention about how you're implementing that, and then Mark and Angela, if you could follow on from there, please. So Kevin, for you first, please.
Obviously, I think for all the experienced distributors in the room, it was music to our ears. That we could actually get the momentum moving again, because you know how it was in the past. Oh, your training's another week away, you can't sign any customers up, and by that point your new person had lost all the enthusiasm that they had on sign up. So the culture that we're now trying to initiate is that on the night of sign up, we're going to start building the list straight away, and we're going to use the hot list, which is basically the people in the mobile phone. So the people in the mobile phone address book, who do you know of these people who may be money orientated, who may be entrepreneurial, and we're going to make appointments there and then to get out and see them so that we can sign them up as customers and also show them the business. So really, it's nothing new, is it? We're going back to where we were a few years ago before the regulations came in, where we can actually get some momentum with new people straight away. So how excited would your new person be that when he walks into training, he's got 3 team members with him, so he's got his team leader structure there, and when he walks out, when the form is faxed off, he's already a qualified distributor. So I just think it's a case of education to get the people to implement this amongst their teams.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, when we knew that this announcement was coming, it was something that we have been asking for a long time. It was just, how could we get around the regulator? And of course, we get around the regulator by making the upline, who is qualified, being responsible for that situation when those very early days of a brand new distributor. Now, I know, Mark and Angela, you've already been cracking away on this, haven't you? What's been happening with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, like Kevin said, for the experienced distributors, you know, group lead in our business, Jane Marsh, was excellent at sitting down with a new distributor, and she had that posture where she'd go through with that new distributor on the hot list and help them make those calls and really launch their business right from day one. And the announcements are really just reinforcing that best practice. Now, again, you know, talking to Richard Bray, he's done that recently. We had a leadership meeting on Monday night, straight after Mad Weekend, and he sat down with a brand new distributor who's then signed up another distributor. And yes, he did say initially it felt quite strange, 15 minutes after somebody had signed up as a distributor, to start working their list and making their calls. But what they did do is they made 3 appointments straight away, to enable that distributor to hit the ground running, Daryl. But then I took over a script that Angela had formulated from the Eric Worre material. Richard left that script with the new distributor, and then over the weekend he has gone on his own, used that script, and made a further 3 more appointments. And literally, so they've got 6 appointments planned this week before they've even started the online training and getting started training. So that linked in with the work that we've been doing over the last few weeks, the condensed bursts of activity, which I'll let Angela explain a bit more on, because she's really sort of hit home with that.
Yeah, yeah, the condensed bursts, we've been doing them as home meetings based on plan, do, review. So, for example, if it's me doing it or Mark, we'll do like a short training session at the beginning, linked to invitation scripts, for example. So we'll talk about, you know, we'll look at Worre's book, and I've actually got my book in front of the team, and, you know, I'll show them how I've been highlighting it. So the fact that I'm, you know, not just reading the book once and putting it to one side, actually studying the book, and therefore going back and referring to it time and time again. So that's what we're trying to impress upon the team, is important that we're studying these books and we refer back to them. And Stefan's book as well is great for that. So yeah, so we'll plan it out, we'll talk about the scripts, we'll actually practice with me and a team member role playing, and then the do part, they'll go off into pairs and team up and role play the scripts, and then come back. Oh, and obviously then go and actually make the calls in pairs. So listening to one person will listen to the other person, actually make the call, so that they can get feedback at the end. I think that's really important. But I think the fact that we're all doing this as a team has really spurred the team on. So, you know, rather than them being in their house on their own and they've got, you know, that fear of the phone, it's a 10-ton telephone, that kind of goes away, because it's that real feeling of we're doing this together. So then the review part, we'll come back together, we'll debrief, we'll see what worked really well, how we can improve for the future. But that's been working really well, and I'd just like to edify David, David Ross, because he's really helped get those underway in the team, and they've actually changed the way, I think, the business, the home meetings are run. It's very much you're coming along and we're going to be doing something. We're not just going to be having a chat. We're actually putting, the plans into action, and we're generating appointments. We're getting leads out there, links to the DVDs, etc. It's all really, really positive. So,
really, the review side, Clive, when you review it, you can just see that the teams that are actively involved in the condensed burst of activity reflect the activity on the genie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we absolutely see that in our genealogy, and it's definitely working. Just to sort of backtrack, the guys tonight, for our audience, the guys tonight have referred to hot list and warm list. If you're wondering what that's about, you'll see it now in Warriors Go Pro book. You'll also see it in some detail in I think it's our first, second, and third broadcast that we did here. You'll find it in the library, so the link will be posted on Facebook after that, and it's going to be posted on this link here, that one there you can see, Facebook.com /Leach Ross, and also in that area there's a tools and resource group, which gives you access to all these scripts as well. So. And plenty of other material for you to have a really good browse through. So that's that. We've had one or two questions come in, and one which I'd just like to throw to you guys is from Lucy Patterson, and it says, "Hi guys, in the early days, how many hours a week did you spend on your business?" Kevin, let's come to you with that first, if I may.
The early days is a long time ago, 14 years in my memory, but lots of people know, yes, I was a musician, but I also had a business. I had a conventional business. I had a delivery business, which was really, really time intensive. So to put it in terms of hours, I couldn't say the amount of hours, but all I can say is every spare minute that I had in them first 4 years was spent on utility warehouse, or Telecom Plus as it was then. It was either walking around the streets face to face, on the telephone, or in the evenings, mainly the both of us out doing appointments for customers and ultimately distributors.
So it's the nooks and crannies, really. That's what you're talking about.
The nooks and crannies of the day, the night, whenever that may be.
Yeah, okay. And Mark and Angela, how about you guys? How did you structure it?
Angela would make the calls and speak to people, and we'd just tie in with my shift pattern, because the boys were 5 and 8 then, so Angela spent most of the time with them, ferrying them to their after school activities. But what I would do is either before, if I was on an afternoon, I'd try and get an appointment in the morning, or if I was on days, try and make an appointment where I was travelling home from work and fit that appointment in then. And like I said, for the first 12 months, really, it was that consistent customer gathering, again, in that nook and cranny time, linked to everything else that we were running around the family, etc.
Fantastic, okay.
Could I just say, Clive, that in those first 4 years there, when we were putting that time in, we didn't have children. Children change everything, as you know, and after 4 years, when a little one came along, we found that children change everything. They take lots of things, they take lots of time, and they take lots of money. But this is the only business model out there I've seen that is going to give you both in absolute abundance.
Yeah,
that's a great comment, Kevin. Thank you very much indeed. One of the we've had a couple of questions actually with a very similar theme. I think it's best summed up by Craig Dainton, who's, what is the future for the utility warehouse? If I may, I'd like to answer that. Right now, as you know, we've got about 2% share of the marketplace, so we've got a huge amount to go up with our existing services that we market. However, this business is never going to stand still. The whole concept behind this business, and I'm going to take you back to when this business was an idea. and the idea was being discussed round a dinner table at the Barwick Palace Hotel in St. Moritz. I was there. And the whole idea was to seamlessly integrate services, onto one monthly bill. And I'll tell you this for nothing. In 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, you will not recognize the service line we're selling then to the service line that we're selling now. Yeah, obviously we're going to have some of the same stuff, but the business will change because the business is always and consistently and constantly developing. And that's why the company always has forward-looking people, and that's why we have a new product directors, etc., etc. So what's it going to be doing in the future? Who the hell cares, as long as we're all there making money, because that's what it's really about. So I think that's probably all the time we've got up for questions here. Thank you very much for some of the fantastic comments, and I'm just scrolling through here to make sure that, and obviously the listing has struck a good thing. I see that somebody's in Cornwall here. Hey, Cornwall, I know it's Cornwall and not too far from Devon, but one of the January kickoff events, which is less than 90 days away now, is in Exeter, and I forget the date, but it's on this Facebook page. You'll see that on there, and very, very shortly. What date is it? 24th of January, and it's in Exeter, the very first one in the southwest, and it's got a great team of people there already committed to running and driving it. Diana, David, and I will be very visible at the event. We'll be speaking at the event, and we'll be past hosting it as well. So that is going to be a stunner. All the other January kickoff events are going to be published soon. If you haven't got a ticket yet, you've heard Kevin talk about events. You've heard Mark and Angela talk about events.
January, Stephens.
You know, January Manchester, Stephens running one. It's going to be prime stuff. So those events you need to, get a move on. And Robin Brooks too. He does a phenomenal event as well. They are critically good, all of them. Now, the other thing is, if you've been following our progress on Facebook, you will know that Di and I gifted, and that was a great pleasure to do so, 10 tickets to the Eric Worre GoPro Recruitment Mastery course in Las Vegas, November 20 through November 23rd. We're excited to be able to do that, and we're very pleased to see that the tickets were snapped up. And then we decided to subsidize some more tickets, and we said we would stop at 30. Those 30 tickets have been snapped up, so we've decided to what the hell, do a few more.
There's 40 going.
So we've got 5?
40 people going.
We've got 40 people going, and how many tickets do we have left?
We're going to let another 5.
We've got 5. We've decided to do another 5 tickets that we're going to subsidise. Details are on Leach Ross. You should have had a group mail about it. Flights are pretty cheap, so if you're going to get a wriggle on, let's get this booked. Let's get this done. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Please, if you want, please register your applause, which I believe there's a widget at the bottom of your screen that you can do that, for our panel, Kevin Hunt, Mark and Angela. And Kevin, would you just like to say something and then say cheerio?
Yeah, I'd like to say greetings from sunny Norfolk, where we've been having a wonderful Indian summer here. It's very akin to Florida, Clive, so you would like it. So thanks everybody for watching tonight, and wish you all the very best with your business.
Mark and Angela.
Yeah, thank you. I've really enjoyed being on tonight. I hope it's been useful, and we hope that lots of the team and lots of you out there book on these January seminars. They're so important. So that's my job now for the next few weeks, is to really get on the phone and promote these events.
Smashing. What are the dates for the Manchester ones? Do you know?
Sunday the 11th of January.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, thank you to all to the panel. Thank you very much indeed. And if you have been, thank you for watching. The recording will be up on YouTube probably in the next 30 minutes or so. So if you have been, thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.